This is episode 5 of There Just Has to Be a Better Way. And this episode is about upgrading my Toshiba NB525 Netbook to a 525 dual core. Now the 525s were a Canadian model, and we'd been looking for one for quite a while because my 505 is over 10 years old. It's got a lot of use. I've gone through 2 keyboards. I've worn them out. So we found a 525 and ordered it up from Canada on eBay, and it arrived, and as you can see from the exterior, they look identical. The inside is where you see the difference. You can see the twin stereo speakers, and they tarted up the mouse buttons to blue. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same, but if you look real close, you can see that there's a difference with the keyboard. That is a French-Canadian keyboard. And so if you compare that with the US keyboard, you can see that there is some differences. And we found with typing that we just did not like the position of some of the keys. Plus, when you hit the keys, they have a different feel. It feels soft and spongy and kind of clicky, if you know what I mean. So I had a brand new US keyboard in stock, and with the 2 right side by side there, you can see what they look like. And then it was just a simple matter to pull the battery. You've got 5 screws, 3 for the little strip where the power button is, and then you've got 2 screws that hold the keyboard. And so with those 5 out, you can pop the keyboard out, undo the ribbon strip, plug the ribbon strip of the US keyboard in, set it back in place, 2 screws, it's down, make sure that the side little tabs are locked in. Then you put your little plastic strip where the power button is back in, 3 screws, battery back in, you're good to go. Shouldn't take more than about 5 minutes. So now that that keyboard's in, we decided to do some performance tests to compare it against the NB525. Now to do it apples to apples, I pulled the hard drive from the 505 and stuck it in the 525 and let it churn away and load up the new drivers so that we were going to compare the same hard drive in 2 different cases. Now here are the performance figures back from episode 2. You can see that at idle it's got 656 meg of memory, 1% of CPU. Now with the 525 dual core, we've got 0% CPU and 801 meg. It's using more memory, and I haven't been able to determine exactly what it is. It must have something to do with either the video or the dual core, because I know that it required a different video driver. And of course, with a dual processor, you're probably going to have a different software running it. But the big thing we noticed was how slow this dual core was. Now, on a cold boot, it went from 48.07 seconds on the 505 to 38.25 with the 525. That's pretty good. But coming out of hibernation, because I use hibernation a lot, the 505 used to come out in 23.11 seconds. The 525 comes out in 31.26 seconds. So there was something going on. So I initially thought it was the video driver. So I downloaded the latest video driver, and it actually made it come out of hibernation slower. It added over 2 seconds from 31.26 to 33.57. So we were going in the wrong direction. Next step was start poking around inside the BIOS. So I looked at the boot speed and I changed it from normal to fast. And then I went to power on display and changed it to system LCDM only. So it didn't have to auto select. It goes directly to the onboard screen. And that made a huge difference. The cold boot it decreased at about 2 seconds from 38.25 to 36.72. And the hibernation dropped from 33.57 seconds to down to only 21.08 seconds, which was a massive difference that apparently it was having a problem determining whether to put the display on the screen or on a external monitor. Then for something to do, I was wondering what would happen in a 505. Your normal hibernation was 23.11. What would these changes do to a 505? And it dropped it to 21.5 seconds. So that one change does make a noticeable difference. Now, as far as everyday performance, I found that the programs don't really start any faster. You're limited by the hard drive. You don't surf any faster. It doesn't open up any web pages any faster. I do notice that when I'm writing columns and I have Word open and 2 or 3 Pale Moon tabs open, that instead of the processor running at nearly 100%, the dual core runs at about 85%, which gives you a little bit of headroom. And what that does is when you're typing along on the keyboard, you can't get ahead of the computer. It pretty much stays with you as you type. Also, I noticed that because I run my home automation on the old X10 and you have to upload the software if you want to make a change, that it is at least twice as fast as a single core 505. So that is where the processor really shines. So is it noticeably faster in day-to-day? If you're not going to be having multiple tabs open on a browser like Pale Moon and something else open like Word, you probably won't notice that there's that much of a difference. But for what I'm doing, I am going to keep it, and it does seem to do what I need. I don't use the sound at all. I didn't buy it for that. I strictly got it for writing columns because it is a small and portable laptop or netbook.